Hey there, welcome back to the shop. Today, let's talk about picks. I think the Humble pick is the most versatile tool in the shop. And after this video, I hope you feel the same way. This is the pick most people think of when they think of picks, is an O-ring pick. It's able to get up behind an O-ring and pull it off without damaging it. They're just so much more than that. As a matter of fact, I actually rarely use picks for pulling off O-rings, but I use them for about everything else. Actually, I got an engine right around the corner there. I can show you a lot of the common techniques that I use picks for. This is a late 90s Honda 15-horse outboard. It's the kind of thing I work on pretty often. Let's see what we can find under here that we can use a pick on. Most people are thinking of O-rings when they think of picks, so let's start with that. I've got my standard 90-degree pick. I find that works best for most things. You don't even need that big hook to get into O-rings. There's our oil cap O-ring. You're just getting under it without tearing. Hook it, and then work it off without cutting it on the threads. So that's level one. What else we got? I spy some crappy looking bolt heads. Phillips heads and especially Allen heads just get caked in rust and dirt and crap. Definitely want to scrape those out before you go ramming a tool in there. This will help keep from rounding them off. If you don't find any other tip from this video useful, this one's really critical. There's no other tool that will do this as well. And this is just an extremely important job to do, to keep from rounding off bolt heads and keeping that 5-minute job from turning into a 3-hour job. Angled picks are also great little pry bars. These spade connectors on the coil are pretty tough to get off, but with a pick you can get in there and twist to lever that spade off. On these plastic weather pack connectors, you've got these little lock tabs. This style pulls out, but either way, pushing in or pulling out, sometimes if you can't get your fingers in there, a pick is the best tool for the job. Once you got it moving, you can use it like your little pry bar, twisting, push it out. There we go. So I have a terminal depinning tool, but if you need to get one of these out in the field, a straight or angled pick, especially one that is a little thinner than this one, can get in the end of the connector and release that lock tab for you. I can push the wire as far forward as it'll go to keep that lock tab from binding up, insert my tool in, and pull back out. So there I've got access to jury rig that crimp back on if I need, or inspect for corrosion. Here's another common situation. You need to pull this small diameter hose off. It's on this corroded aluminum connector. I can get this little cable clamp out of the way. Then I can get under the hose end and kind of break it free of that corrosion and pry against that housing. All right, we've got it able to rotate now. I'm just gonna hook it and then pull. And there's the hose off of the barb, no problem. You can actually get specialty large picks. I think they call them radiator hose pullers. They're basically a giant version of the same thing that you stick in the end of a radiator hose and run all the way around to break the seal, and then you use that to pull it off from the inside. Let's say I'm trying to pull the throttle shaft out of this motor. That runs through the carburetor there, and there's an E-clip on this end. There's really not that many screwdriver tips that will fit in that tiny little gap there, so I can wiggle the pick in, and once I've got that gap opened up a little bit, I can kind of pry from underneath, pry against the shaft, like that. And there's our E-clip, safe and sound. I actually prefer this method to using a screwdriver. How about this? If you're a little bit of a cheapskate like me, you like reusing zip ties, there's really no better tool than a pick for getting them undone. Pull back on the loose end, so it open up a little bit of a gap between the tooth and the pawl. Get your pick in there, open that up, and you're in business. Here's a common outboard scenario. You're working with a little tool or a little screw. You drop it down in that lower cowling well. That thing is a bottomless pit. Now, normally I keep my picks non-magnetized because I don't want them picking up that metal dust. But in a case like this, I have a few picks that I keep magnetized with our handy little magnetizing and demagnetizing tool. And right down there, you probably can't see it, our bit's about 6 inches down. Easy as that. And that'll get into way tighter spots than one of those magnetic pickup tools. With a curved pick like this, you can kind of reach under the outboard block. If you've ever tried to fish something out of an outboard cowling, you know that those bits can go way, way under into cavities that a magnetic pickup tool couldn't reach. And then while we're here, I want to give honorable mention to the iSesamo. This is obviously not a pick, but it's really pulled its weight around the shop. As you can see, I've had it for a little while. All this is just a little piece of spring steel. It's designed for running into the gap between the screen and the case of an iPhone or a similar device, getting into any thin gasket surface. It just won't cut up aluminum like a razor will. And you can twist it without fear of it shattering because it's so flexible. For something like this fuel pump here, I would pull the screws off, and then to get it gap opened up between it and the case, because there are no pry points on this, I would get in there with isesamo, and you could even tap it with a mallet. I use it a lot like a pick. It's just thinner and it works for breaking these gasket surfaces. Once you get something like this fuel pump off, you can also use it for light gasket scraping. They're cheap and they're very, very durable. They'll last you a long time. You can see I've tried out a few different styles of picks here, and the right angle is what I've landed on. But if you're pulling a million O-rings, maybe the curved pick is for you. Straight picks are a pretty good option. You can keep them nice and sharp. Before I had ever heard anyone call these a pick, I had heard them called awls, and I just thought they were called awls because this is the only style that I had in mind with a straight tip on it. And as a side note, this camo shirt I'm wearing here actually had the need for an awl when I was beginning shooting here. It's lost a few buttons. I needed to puncture the fabric here to run that cord through. So that is what an awl is just a punch basically for soft materials. So if that's something you might need, you know, opening up holes in fabric or leather working, a pick will do light duty awl work in a pinch. Having a straight pick around to you know, open up a hole in a gasket, for instance, is something I do on occasion. So in this collection here, I have a few generic picks. I have no idea where these came from. I think they were just freebies. I have what I believe is a Tecton pick, and these are a great cost to performance ratio. I really like these cushy grips, although the oil does attack them over time and they go a little soft, but that shape is excellent. I have kind of a dental style pick. I know a lot of guys like these. I don't. I find I poke myself a lot, but they, especially real dental tools, are very, very sharp and very durable, and then you can get them in some really interesting contours on the end, and they come with very fine tips. So those are nice, but they are brittle. I've actually snapped the end off of both of the ends of this dental pick. And then we have the big dogs. These are 9.5-inch picks made by Ullman. All the very nicest picks on the market, at least from what I've heard, are really made by Ullman. They rebrand them as all sorts of things. This has a little bit of a heftier shank, and it tapers off to just a razor sharp point. I like these for a lot, but compared to these thinner picks, you wouldn't think it looking at them, but that finer gauge on the tip just makes a lot of difference. Although I do appreciate the contour on this 45 pick is really nice. You can really reach. The thing with these Ullman picks too is they have these slim handles, and I just don't find you get good rotational control. I just don't find their handles very comfortable, but I don't own a short set of these Ullman picks either. I should note this is a much harder feeling steel than these guys too. This chrome steel, and you can see I bent the tip on that one. These are much more likely to break than bend. If you're using it to scratch into things or clean up gasket surfaces, you might want the harder picks. Here's my 2 cents. Just buy one of these short guys with the fat handles. Get yourself a million, stash them everywhere, and you'll find yourself using them in ways that you wouldn't have even thought if you just have them lying around ready to grab. I think you won't be disappointed. They're dirt cheap. Don't spend any real money on them. If you want to get a good brand, just buy the Tecton. So, if I have convinced you that you need a pick or one of these isesamos, I will leave links to them in the description. As always, I want to thank you for hanging out in the shop with me. Take care, and I'll see you next time.